What if I were to suggest that you play a key role in the awakening world? And that you are watching this because you have heard the call. We can start right now by opening our hearts and minds. Welcome to the awakening world.
Greetings, everybody. Namaste. Of course, I'm Love Coach Scott Thomas with one of my dearest friends. I love this woman so much. This is, of course, Larisa Stow, and I am in her home temple. And it's been really beautiful. We met through Saturday Night Live a couple of years ago and have done all these online shows together. She's co-hosted with me several times, but we actually met for the very first time when I got here on Friday. And so it's been really wonderful to be here. So welcome, everybody. I certainly want to welcome our friends that are watching on Facebook all over the world. Thank you to John and Summer Raymer for putting us out over the Sign Network. And the Sign Network allows us to reach out to as many as 100 different groups and pages. So all the people watching on Facebook via Sign Network, welcome. And definitely want to welcome our friends from Unify, and of course, all of our beloved friends that are in the Zoom room. And it's always really fun if you'll put in the chat box where you are geographically. And of course, a lot of our people already know that. We've got Scotty in Maui and Nana in Brooklyn, Eleanor Joy up in the Pacific Northwest, Dorina in Ecuador, Melinda from the Yucatan. And those are just the first ones I've been able to see. So please let us know where you're coming from. And for those of you who are watching on Facebook, you can come right in and join us. And it's really easy to do that. Just go to globalpeacetribe.com, globalpeacetribe.com. And if you scroll down on whatever page you are, you'll see where it says get live Zoom room access to all of our shows. And you click here, or it'll say register for our summer season. You click on that and it takes you to our registration page. There it is, register for current season. And it's really fast. You just register and boom, you can get the Zoom room links to all of our shows, because we do shows on Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday morning. And we're building a beautiful community here. People are very interactive with each other. They're getting to know each other. So come and join the community. It's really, really wonderful. Okay, I've done my spiel. And because it is the Sacred Sunday show, and we're multi-denominational, we recognize that there's so many wonderful ways to enjoy life, to enjoy divinity. But we'd like to start with a meditative dropping in, slowing down. And I'm so happy that one of the great meditation leaders is sitting right next to me. How many people at Disclosure Fest did you lead the meditation for?
Thousands and thousands.
Yeah. So this is Larisa. I'm going to turn it over to her.
Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, it's great to have you here.
It's so wonderful to have you here. So let's drop this morning into our hearts. I invite you to bring a hand up with your fingers, your index finger and your thumbs touching, and bring your left hand underneath your heart And your right hand up, and close your eyes and begin to focus on your heart center, breathing long and deep into your heart. Focus on what you're grateful for in your life. And as you exhale out, send that love to the world. So inhaling into your heart, feeling into your gratitude. Think of all the things in your life. It could be nature, your pets, your beloved, your friends, your family. And you breathe out that love into the world. Breath is a portal. So the deeper that you breathe in and you feel that gratitude coming into your heart, the deeper you will go into that space of healing within the heart center and exhaling out that love. And gently just bring your awareness back into the room. Grateful to be with you all. Grateful to be here together.
Driving force of us, the way of the universe. I am. Radiant sunrise is why we're here. Heart streaming light into where life is dear and love will free us all. I am the trees, I am the soul. Heart, I am your soul. It's in every one of us, the heart of us all. I am. It's the driving force of us, the way of the universe. Radiant sunrise is why we're here. Heart streaming light into our atmosphere, where life is dear and love radiant sunrise is why we're here. Hearts streaming light into our atmosphere, where life is dear and love will free us Well, blessings and welcome everyone. We have a Scott who's frozen right now, so let's see what we can do. All right, there we are. I'm here. Hey, welcome from London, England. Well, actually, I'm in Stratford-upon-Avon. This is a photo I took when I was in London. And that was a song called I Am from my Illuminate album. And it's about love freeing us all, because what is there but love? And over to you, Scott. Hopefully.
Are you able to hear us now? Are we happening?
Yes. We can hear you now.
Okay.
It was good. You were frozen and you were smiling. That was
Okay, great. Yeah, we've been free. Thank goodness you got me smiling as opposed to the panic when I see that. It's like, So, thank you for that beautiful, beautiful song, Mashar.
So beautiful. So
Thank you.
beautiful.
You're
I was
very
getting all
welcome.
this energy.
She was,
just
yeah, you were
vibe,
having
just
a, maybe that's why the internet went out. You were like having a moment.
I was having a moment. It was so beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mashar.
Namaste.
Namaste. We and of course, Mashar will be back with more music a little bit later on. He's coming to us all the way from England, and it's really wonderful how we have people all over the world, and as we have somebody, a unified coming from Poland, with people from all over the United States and Canada, a tribe coming together. Her story, and as most of us, we're all getting older, and no matter what age we are, we're all one day we have to deal with healing challenges. It happens, and I wanted Larisa to share how she handled a very significant healing event, and the courage and the choice she made, the proactive choice she made, so unique for all of us. So I'm just going to let you share your story, my friend.
Do you remember, Scott we were talking on the phone one night. I was in a writing retreat, and I had found out, and a lot of you know this already, but I had found out that I had a possible cancer scare again. In fact, the doctors are very concerned.
An emphasis on the word again.
Again.
Right.
Yeah. Back in 2019, I had, they found in a mammogram and they found in an MRI that I had these calcifications in my breast. And the MRI showed that it was about 8.5 centimeters. And so they referred me to a surgeon, and the surgeon wanted to give me a mastectomy, which was really, really shocking. They brought in a counselor immediately because they felt like that was the highest choice. But for me in that moment, I was so blown away, and the biopsy had shown that it was probable DCIS, which is ductal carcinoma in situ. Now, mind you, ductal carcinoma in situ is not necessarily cancer. It's like they're the precancerous cells that happen. And yet, because there's 50 to 70% of women who have DCIS, it turns into more of an aggressive cancer. So their solution is when they find this out, and especially since it was like about 8.5 centimeters.
And show them how big that is.
Well, I don't know. I say this, but I'm like, that's probably about that big
Yeah.
or so.
Okay. I mean, that's significant.
Yeah. So they felt that the only way that my surgeon at the moment felt like the only way to deal with it was to give me a mastectomy. But for me, that did not feel like the highest solution in that moment. And especially with the miracles that I've had in my life. I've had so many miracles. I had rheumatoid arthritis in my 20s and had this profound instantaneous healing at St. Peter's Cathedral, which was amazing because I had been on a walker. So I know that healing is possible. I know that healing ourselves inside out is possible. And especially with Kundalini awakening, to be able to access that. Most people don't know that Kundalini is also a way to cure ourselves. It's profound liberation of energy that happens when you have access to your Kundalini. So,
And do I describe? First off, are we doing okay with? Because I saw some people saying, "How's the internet?" Oh, great, thank you. Okay, just tell people. I mean, most people know Kundalini, but if you can just maybe describe what that means.
So Kundalini is this life force energy at the base of our spine, and it is powerful. It's absolutely powerful. It opens us up to our source self. It connects us right to our source self. And you know when it is happening. When people say, how do you know that you've had a Kundalini awakening? It's like likening it to an orgasm. I mean, you can't, you know when that's happening.
But you know, people who haven't been trained about Kundalini have these like amazing experiences. They don't know what's going on. They think
Right.
they're going crazy or that their body's on fire or whatever. So it is important to be aware that many people in our spiritual community do have Kundalini awakenings, and some are very conscious about it.
Yeah.
And others, I mean, I've had people tell stories of I was a corporate exec and all of a sudden my body did this thing, and of course they end up then in Bali or Maui or
Right. It takes you on a journey.
it takes you on a journey.
Yeah. Of discovery, of self-discovery.
Yeah.
And that's, I've been working with my Kundalini for a long time, and I was already having like the flashes obviously in my 20s, but then it was like bam, you know, in around 2008 or so. So I've had this access to this healing energy, and I've had a long time now to be able to calibrate it. I know how to work with it. And so I had faith, even as scary as it was, I had faith that my inside out healing was possible. So I didn't want to jump straight into that whole Western approach of chop it off. To me, that just felt barbaric. Like it felt really barbaric for something that's possible, that's going to possibly turn aggressive. It just didn't seem right. So I went this time because I found a lump in my breast, and it was a rather big lump. It was shocking. I was in the shower, and I'm used to always checking my breasts when I do sauna. I usually do sauna about 5 to 6 days a week. But I had gotten this tattoo. And you're not supposed to go in the sauna for about a week or so. So I hadn't checked myself, but I was in the shower and I was like checking because I'm given my past and my history. It was there. And it was huge and it was scary. So I went to the doctor, I got a mammogram, I got an ultrasound immediately. And not only did they found the lump, they actually at the time weren't as nervous about the lump as they were about what they found next to it, which was another small mass. And they were also concerned because I had more of these calcifications in my breast. So I was concerned, deeply concerned, and just so you all know, I do work with my Kundalini on a daily basis. I do something called Riding the Dragon every day. It's a moving meditation, and I access my Kundalini. It's a profound experience every day that I have with myself. And it's necessary for me to connect to those healing frequencies and to my multidimensional frequencies. So I have been doing this, but even with that, it was this like, wait a minute, I'm going in, I'm connecting with myself. So what's going on? Why am I having these calcifications? Why am I having this huge lump? And why is this other little spot there? So I felt like it was this profound opportunity to dive even deeper into my healing.
Think about that for a moment. That's such a key modeling, right? Instead of going into panic and fear and all then the brain chemistry stuff that happens when we go into fear, an opportunity to go deeper into
Profound healing.
And that's just like a really incredibly important thing. When we had Deepak on the show once, he said people usually don't die from cancer. They die from the diagnosis of cancer. So it's a really just important point how you embraced this is something happening as opposed to going into a big reaction of fear.
Yes, and I want to say that it's not to say that the fear wasn't there.
Right. So how do you balance that? How did you work with the fear while still seeing it as an opportunity for deeper healing?
It's honoring that it's there without trying to push the fear away. Because I'll give you an example, like a panic attack. If you've ever had a panic attack, what makes that panic attack spiral out is the resistance to the panic. So when it's like, oh my God, this panic is happening, I got to stop this, that starts this spiraling, this downward spiral. It's the resistance.
Another example of that, I give this all the time to my clients. People stutter because they're afraid they're going to stutter.
Yes.
So someone who's a stutterer, if he has a father that's just spit it out, son, just spit it out. What is it? He's going to stutter even more. If his mother's more like, it's okay, baby, take your time. It's okay. Then it's easier for him to talk. Right? So again, we stutter because we're afraid to stutter. We panic because we're afraid that we're panicking.
Yes.
Right? So beautiful examples.
So, right? So that's how I would process it. I would feel the fear coming up. I would feel like, holy shit, and this feeling that death felt like it was coming close.
And that's the conversation we had at that time.
Yeah. And I felt that in 2019. It was interesting because when the DCIS, when I was diagnosed with that, my initial reaction was like, no, I'm going to heal this. But at the same time, I had this fear, like, because I have such a connection with Source. So I thought, well, if it's here, maybe a part of me wants to die. If I'm not connected to Source and it's here, why would it be here if there isn't a part of me that wants to die? Which was true, by the way. That's a whole other story. But I mean, not my full self. And this is the interesting thing, is that you can have 99% of you that really wants to be here. But if there is a part of you that doesn't, and you're not being completely honest with that part of yourself, if you're going like this and pushing that part away, it's going to come up in another way. So it can come out in your physical form if you're not consciously dealing with that part of yourself.
I want to riff on that for a second because death sometimes is in the field.
Yeah.
It is in the field. And I work with clients all the time where it's like you become aware, okay, death is in the field. This is an option. And our beloved Celestine, who just recently passed, she was dealing with cancer quite a bit. She managed it beautifully, but same thing. The day before she died, she was pretty healthy. She was not struggling. She was pretty healthy, and Actually, 3 days before she went into the hospital, she said to her daughter, I can feel that death is coming. And she was still in help, but she was like, and she was very multidimensional like you are. She said, I can feel death is coming. She then had an event. They took her to the hospital. They saw that there was a problem going on. Her, organs were challenged. But the doctors thought that she was going to be fine. And the morning that she died, she said to her daughter, oh no, I'm going to die today. Today's the day. And she was still, quite coherent. And the doctors were not telling her. But she was like, no, today's the day. And then sure enough, that afternoon, 5 o'clock, she was gone. So again, especially for those of us that are multidimensional, tuning into when is death around, and not seeing death as the grim reaper and this bad thing, but death is an experience we're all going to have, and there are times that death comes around. It's an available option.
Yes.
So anyway,
And it's a part of who we are.
it's a part of who we are.
It's honestly, it's our home in a sense.
Mm.
It's like returning back into your heart, like completely in the formlessness of the heart. So of course it's going to it comes, and it comes closer sometimes. And especially when there is an aspect of us that is done. That is done being in a certain frequency. So what I've found is if you don't allow that frequency to die, and you don't face that frequency when you're alive, that death will come for you.
Tell us more what you mean by that frequency.
So we literally, and all of us, even though, and I'm going to express it maybe in a different way than most people use this word, but like we talk about being in 3D, like the third dimension, and that we're moving into the fifth dimension. How I experience it is that there are so many dimensions happening, rather than 3D, 4D, 5D, meaning that people are in different realities. Like all of us right here that are tuning in today, we are perceiving things from very different ways. Like if you were to look at a diamond, so to speak, and you were to look at the different aspects of that diamond, you're going to see from different facets, you're going to see reality in a very specific way. So we've all experienced waking up one day and feeling so empowered and seeing the world through your heart and seeing almost like the golden realm, like looking around and seeing things through love, right? And seeing others through the eyes of love rather than seeing them through their shadow. But then on another day, you'll wake up and everything looks dark, even if the sun is out. And you look at the people in your life and you see them through the eyes of irritation and frustration. And you see yourself through frustration. Like I'm not good enough, or, feeling like that your life is falling apart. So how can one day life look so different than the next day? It's literally you're walking through different realities. Because that reality of when you're looking at life through the eyes of love and you're looking and feeling yourself through that, you magnetize a reality that is in alignment with that frequency, right? So that's why I say dimension, but also frequency. So sometimes I interchange the words, that frequency, like tuning into a radio station, so to speak, and a dimension. Right? So we could all be living, even if in the same room, we could be dimension share space, not to mention
that happens a lot with people having mystical experiences or experiences with drugs or medicines. You know, they'll be in a room and people are having completely different experiences, profound.
Right, like huge.
Huge.
Somebody's in hell, somebody's in heaven.
Yeah.
And this is how I've experienced myself. So many different dimensions, so many different frequencies, different realities that I'll traverse. And my spectrum, you know, of realities that I'll traverse has been huge. Like, you know, I'm one of those very full spectrum humans and light beings. And that's been a blessing. And it's also been a huge challenge because it means that when death comes, when death is in my field, I can really go, I can dive into it deep, feel that vortex, you know, becoming stronger and stronger. It becomes like a black hole, so to speak. It has like a magnetism that's so powerful and so profound that I find, you know, the wake of that wave, you know, you know, pulling me into it.
Yeah.
And this year, first out of that, when I found out there was that fear pocket, I saw it as a profound opportunity to heal, which I did. I started up-leveling my healing, but I also felt death near. And people would say, you know what, this is just probable DCIS, right? You were at the lowest possible
Incidence or possibility
of cancer right now. So you're not going to die. But the interesting thing is right after I got, pretty soon after I got that diagnosis, I got it in January, in March, I got hit, boom, with this massive pain in my my abdomen, and it felt like the abdomen, but it wasn't like my pain. I also had endometriosis, which is another. That had to do more with my ovaries, yeah, my uterine area. And I also have had that in my 20s. That's a whole other story of being out of balance with my hormones from before I was born. My mom taking a drug called DES. So I've had these challenges in my life since I was a child. And so I had this this pain that was huge. I'm used to having pain because of endometriosis, so I ignored it, but it got so bad that I ended up in the hospital. And I was so sick in the hospital first with that. And then they found out that it was some sort of infection. They didn't know what it was, so they gave me all these antibiotics. And from those antibiotics, what they didn't know, and I didn't know, is that I got C. diff from being in a hospital on so many antibiotics that lowered my immune system so that this bacteria could hop in. And long story short, I was almost taken out by that because they didn't know that I had C. diff, and I kept going down, down, down. I had this DCIS, right, which wasn't going to take me. Because death come closer to me, and I could feel it, and I knew it was close, I get C. diff. And now the C. diff, like, literally almost took me out. Yeah, just, it was an incredible experience.
I want to check in for one moment. How is our internet? I saw somebody said it's sporadic. Are we consistent enough to where you're able to hear the story and follow along? Great. Thank you, Eleanor, Amashar, Karen. And we will get, I see that some people are having beautiful comments, questions, and we will get to comments and questions, but we're going to do the story.
It's been
a lifelong journey.
It's
been
been
a
a
lifelong journey of learning how to work with your body.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the mind. And the mind. Because the mind is so powerful. And in my experience, our mind can create, whether we face death and move through it, or whether or not we choose to completely surrender to that death, in the physical form. So yes, I got extremely close to that veil, extremely close, but I had these wonderful experiences with Divine Mother coming to me and teaching me in the hospital and showing me that this was up to me if I wanted to live or die.
And just in the timeline, when did that happen?
That was 2019.
Okay.
Yeah, when I was in and out of the hospital quite a bit in 2019. So Divine Ma came to me and was showing me that I had this opportunity to unplug from the energy that I had been plugged into in life and re-plug myself into the we, into the healing space of divine feminine, really in your field. This is a piece of it. When you're in your form, like fully in your form, facing all those aspects of yourself that you may be resisting, that you may not want to see. So for me, there was some chunky pieces that I was resisting looking at. And once I started looking at those chunky pieces, that's when the healing started to happen. So saying plugging into the we is plugging into this experience of love, the profound love that's here, because we experience plugging to source. Now, source side of ourselves, everybody works in the past. I want to say in the past, we've worked, in religion with our spiritual practice to transcend the body, to transcend the ego. But when we do that, it's much easier to surrender to death in the sense of a physical death. When you surrender and you plug into the we, which is really plugging into this reality, like getting the full medicine of this world, that's plugging into the we, into each other, into opening up to the love that is fully here.
This is a really important point. That conversation with you and with others, a lot of the kind of new thought, new age spiritual movement was find a guru, become enlightened, and get out of your body.
Yeah.
Right? And
yeah.
But I can't wait to get out of my body. I mean, my wife was like that. She was like, always looking for the guru who was going to help her get out of her body. Well, she got out of her body by dying at age 52. Right?
Yep.
And more of the spiritual teachers that I work with, that I really respect, like Larisa, the Twin Ray, it's not about leaving our body. It's about being fully in the body. And the body is a gift, you guys. I've done so many near-death experience shows, and everyone says, yes, it feels amazing to be out there. But the amount of time that we're actually blessed with this body temple, it's infinitesimal. It's a very short amount of time in the span of life, in the span of our multidimensional self. So enjoy the body temple. How can we be fully, really eat that peach, right? Really appreciate that moment that I get to be sitting still, that I get to play with my dog. Like, we got to really be in our bodies as much as we can. Anyway, okay.
And that's spiritual. And in the past, we have been taught that it's not spiritual. That it's hedonistic.
Because we honored people that left their bodies. Jesus martyred himself, for our sins. And a lot of the spiritual teachers were not famous for being in the bodies,
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that has been our modeling, has been this transcendence of the body, of the ego. And this, we're literally moving into a new dimension. As a collective, we're being asked to move into the dimension of embodying love, which I've been shown is embluement, not enlightenment, not embodiment necessarily. It's the combination of the two. It's the holy divine matrimony of the enlightened mind and the embodiment of all that we are. It's which is comes into union within the heart center.
Emblument.
Emblument.
Isn't that beautiful?
The flowering of our consciousness and the love that we are while we're in form. That we have this opportunity to be love completely while we're in form. And this is the piece that in 2019 that I found within myself how I was resisting love in life in a very specific pocket of my life, which this is not about that today, but I was resisting. And when I say that, I became aware that I was a victim. I was in victim consciousness in this one pocket of my life.
And there's an interesting thing to, again, it's not black and white. It's not like, oh, I'm in victim consciousness about everything. I mean, we know people like that. But where are the areas where we still feel powerless?
Exactly.
Maybe to a particular person, or powerless to the job we have to have.
The situation.
Or the situation
that we're
in. Powerless of I can't move, I can't leave my house, I can't, whatever it is. Where do we feel powerless?
Yeah. And that was, for me, it was finding that and being honest with that to the deep of the deep and taking responsibility for how can I open, how can I be empowered within this situation, where can I take my power back and in this situation to shift this. So that was opening to the love here, not going here, but going here. And that's the we. So I discovered that, and because I had what I like to call cellular receivership, I received it fully within my cells, that I was responsible to show up and be the one to shift my reality. I was able to heal. The C. diff, everything started healing. And I was able also to see that this cancer was not going to take my life. In fact, I knew that I was going to heal. And that's the thing, when you know that you're going to heal and you feel that and you feel in complete alignment with that, and emotionally you feel in alignment with that, emotionally, mentally, and physically, spiritually. It aligned.
So you had faith. You had faith.
Yes.
Now, faith is sometimes something that we need to cultivate. If we're lucky, we already have a built-in faith, or built-in when there's a crisis. If we're fortunate, we have that, oh no, this is going to be okay. I'm good. But sometimes we don't know. Sometimes we don't have that faith. And so that's where you need to cultivate it. And I want to say, I just was working with someone as I was driving here, actually, and her marriage is very challenged, really challenged, and she's Christian, and she was talking about how, I can't imagine divorce because I'm Christian, and I believe God brought us together for a reason. And so I went with that, and I said, then drop to your knees tonight and pray and ask God or Jesus or the Holy Spirit, whatever you relate to, ask them for support. And she texted me the next day. She said, thank you so much, Scott. I had not thought to pray like that. I've been so in the worrying. I've been so in the story of the drama. I hadn't thought to do that. And we talked quite a bit about how to pray in a way that's really opening ourselves to receive,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But because that's channel, right? That worked for her. It's like, okay, follow that channel.
Yes.
And she texted me back. She said, I did exactly that. I prayed deeply, and the next morning I woke up and I knew what to do. Right? So sometimes we have to cultivate faith in whatever ways worked for you before, right? Spiritual practice can be playing a musical instrument. It can be doing a martial art form. It can be spending time in nature, right? There's many ways that we can have a spiritual practice. And when we're facing a crisis and we're really feeling lost, scared, confused, cultivate faith.
Yes.
Through either a practice that's worked for you in the past or find a practice that's right for you now.
Yes. Absolutely. That's it.
Yeah.
That is really it. And that's what saved my life. And the other piece is that I was able to visualize. That was a really big, huge piece about this, is that I was visualizing myself fully healed on the other side of it. And I imagined who the Larisa would have to be to get to be in that position of full healing. So to have it logically make sense that somehow I healed on the other side. So I could show myself a logical way I was close to death. And because, man, I had so much pain. It's like, I can't even imagine. It's really hard to imagine now, because I'm not in pain, how much pain I was actually in. It was so believable that I was going to die. Let me just tell you that. It was so overwhelming physically that the weight with death was heavier because of the pain than staying in my body. However, I had faith, such strong faith that I would make it through, and I visualized how I was going to get through that. And that pulled me through, and I healed. So when it came back around the bend this year, I was like, oh my God. I was like, really? It was so just, it shook me to the core. Like, oh my God, okay, I was there in 2019, now it's 2022, and here I am again. But what I recognized is that it was another opportunity. It was an initiation, because 2019 was this profound initiation, and it taught me about the we space. Like the Weevolution was birthed from that experience, the understanding of the Weevolution. And
many of you were here on Friday night, and we also did a show earlier in the year on January 9th, that weekend on the Weevolution. Go back. If you're curious about the Weevolution, go back and see our show on Friday night. It's easy to find. If you're just go to Unify or my page, and you can scroll down and you'll find the Friday night show where you'll meet some of the people in the Weevolution, and we talk about the Weevolution.
And Saturday too. Saturday was really big.
Yeah.
That was a big one as well.
Yeah. So, okay. The Weevolution, because there's, or just go to our YouTube channel and put in the search bar, open up our channel, Global Peace Tribe on YouTube, and in the search bar, just write Weevolution, WEVOLUTION, and I'm going to put that in today, so it'll be there by tomorrow.
Yeah, and I'm so grateful for the distinction of the Weevolution, because every time we have new distinctions, they give us something to live into. It's like that distinction creates like a field of understanding and frequency. It's like it's literally a new dimension. And even though we've experienced that maybe as individuals, like having a distinction, it brings us together within that so that we can understand and unify that field of understanding.
You know, there's a wonderful example. Some of you probably know this. Do you know about Roger Bannister and the 4-Minute Mile?
No.
So, hundreds of years, no. And finally, somebody named Roger Bannister ran a 4-minute mile, and it changed the field of possibility.
Yeah.
And now a good high school can run a 4-minute mile. This changed.
And that's it.
Now,
Into the dimension or the frequency of the 4-minute mile.
right, is possible. A
Is
human
possible.
being can do that.
You see that though? It's literally, we all made a leap in consciousness. We all unified into a field together of the 4-minute file. 4-minute mile. we got into the file. We accessed the file of the 4-minute mile.
But it's such a beautiful example of what you're describing, of how we do change consciousness. And that's why I'm wanting her to tell this story.
Yes.
Because this is a modeling of how to manage cancer, how to manage a scary diagnosis. You're modeling it beautifully. So
Thank you. So now
it comes back.
Yeah, it came back. And I'm like, what now? Like, what am I not seeing? You know, like what part of me is asleep? What aspect is unconscious within me that wants to die? Because death was like, meh, again. And I'm like, all right. And I saw that once again as this powerful opportunity to discover where that unconsciousness was within me, to find out where that part of me once again was wanting to, like, tapping out, you know, going into source. And I have to say, I think that's part of why death is so much closer to me, as well as because of my multidimensionality, because of my access to experiencing my multidimensional selves that are not in form. Right? There's this formlessness that I am able to access that has profound healing within that love frequency, but they're not all in the body. Right? So I had to look, like, we want to stay in the body, right, Larisa? We don't have to, but we want to, right? And with that, yes, I started finding these places within myself. One of them had to do with aging. One of them
We
had
talked
to do
about that, yeah.
with my vanity, you know, of like just noticing, like, there's a part of me that's like, no, I don't want to be this old person. I don't want to have my face fall off. You know, it's like, I'm not enjoying that. You know? And it's like, I don't feel like that on the inside of myself. So when I start to see this, I'm like, oh, look at this thing that's, you know, jangly, more jangly than it used to be. I'm like, I don't like that. What's going on here? Not okay. And I had to access that the warrior within me that has the courage, that is like a badass warrior of courage to face aging while in the body, and to actually choose that. And once I saw that, that was a chunky piece for me.
And we had a long conversation about it, because being close to Larisa and seeing her make the choice to live is a healing for me. Because my wife made a different choice. My wife really struggled with aging. And she always told people, I don't want to live past 50. And when she gained an extra 10 pounds, only 10, maybe 12, she never lost it. And she just would compare herself to what she used to look like. Because she'd been a model, and, you know, so she would compare herself to herself. And she really struggled with aging. And so at age 52, she left her body. You know, she died. And it breaks my heart, you know, because she was still so incredibly beautiful. But she wasn't able to get past that point. And so it's such a healing for me to be your friend and to be close to you. And,
I'm so grateful,
you know,
because you even were feeling me.
Yeah.
You felt death, and you were really
I could feel it was around.
Feel that it was coming. Yeah.
Yeah, it was around.
And that was one piece, but there was more. And I recognized, once I felt that piece and I faced that powerfully, and I still have to face that on a daily basis, because it's still You know, it's a challenge, but I'm like, I'm choosing this. I'm choosing to be in my body with aging. I'm doing this. I'm accessing that warrior within myself, because it takes courage to age. I think it really does. You know, it takes humility to age, you know, to have your body fall apart in different ways. But there was still, even after I faced this one part, there was more. And I did not know what that was, but I could feel that I needed deep sleep, deep rest. And I felt like this deep need to be in the dark. And what I understood is that in death, there is this profound and beautiful fertile darkness that we encounter. We also encounter the light of ourselves, but there is that, it's that realm of the Adi Shakti, which is that primordial darkness before the light. And it's fertile, and everything is possible within that. And it was that part that I was longing for. And I could feel myself longing to touch that place. And because I could feel myself longing, like, I need to be in the darkness, I need everything to stop, I need quiet, I need kind of the world just to stop. All these demands that and they're not even demands, but sometimes they feel like demands.
Responsibilities.
The responsibilities of life.
She has 2 children, a husband, the Shakti Love Warriors, her band, you know, the responsibilities.
And it felt like rather than showing up in complete surrender with the darkness inside out, it felt like I needed things to stop. And I needed to just go into myself. And I had this sense that if I didn't do that, that I would leave my form, because the magnetism to that was so powerful that I needed to honor that. And that's when I started remembering, and I shared with you, I was on a writing retreat in Newport Beach, Newport Coast area, the Marriott. And when I was there, I started having these images of a dark retreat. And I had heard about a dark retreat in my 20s.
Wow, it goes back that far.
Yeah, when I was doing my teacher training for Kundalini Yoga. I had heard about the dark retreat, and when I heard about it, it sounded really scary and exciting. I have a tendency to, things that are scary, I have a tendency to want to walk towards them, because I don't like the feeling of fear overcoming me. And so when I heard of this dark retreat, I was like, oh yeah, that sounds so profoundly like awful that I think I should do it.
So describe to people what it entails.
A dark retreat literally is, there's not one speck of light. We're talking not, you have to have an environment where you tape up, or there is, I wouldn't even say blackout curtains, because that's not enough. It's like a room that is so completely dark, that has been sealed off from the light so completely that not even a shard of light through. Dark it is. And a lot of dark retreats are also set up so that you can't hear the outside world as well. So there's sound deprivation too. And this to me was so frightening and yet so exciting to face that part of myself. And in my 20s, I was like, I'm going to do that someday, but I'm not ready. And it kept coming, you know, my 30s, my 40s, you know, I'm not ready to do that. I'm going to, but I'm not. When I was in that writing retreat, boom, these downloads of, this is it, Larisa, this is what you need to do. You need to go into the darkness to find that peace that needs to be quenched, that needs to be touched, that needs to be felt within yourself. And when I say within yourself, I'm talking to myself. I needed to find that place that needed to be heard, that needed to be seen, that has not had the attention before that, like the real attention that it's been seeking. So I found this place online called Skycave Retreats in Ashland, Oregon. And the website is so beautiful. You can feel from just going to the website that it is just a beautiful, safe, deep space, to heal. It felt like if I'm going to go into the darkness, this is the place I want to go. So they didn't have any pricing on their website, and so I had to reach out, and I'm very interested, and let Scott know. Scott is the host of Skycave Retreats in Ashland, and he got back to me and let me know dates that were available. And so I was looking at doing it I wanted to do it for 5 days. 5 days in the darkness is what I felt.
Can you imagine that? 5 days in utter darkness. I mean, okay.
And so he gave me these dates that were in July. He had some dates at the time, and I think he had some in August. But at the time I was like, okay. But as I started feeling it, once I made that decision that I wanted to go into the darkness, something was like, no, now. Because death felt so close to me, it was like, you got to go quicker than that. That's not soon enough. So I wrote him, I said, is there any sooner dates than that at all? And he said, yes. However, it's 3 days. He's like, because how we like to do things, 3 or 4 days, he said, it's really important that you have a day before you go into the darkness in the room that you're going to be in the dark, and a day after to integrate. The day before to get ready, to prepare yourself for the darkness, and the day after to integrate the depth of what you just went through. So he offered that I could come in on May 8th, which was Mother's Day. And I didn't want to be away from my daughters and my mama on Mother's Day. I'm so blessed that my mom's in form. So it's like, I need to be with my mama, and I want to be with my kiddos. So what I chose to do was go to Ashland on the 9th and enter the dark retreat on the 10th. So I had that day before and the day after. And wow, it was, I'll just jump right into that. So now I booked it. I said, I gotta go because death is calling me, and I'm not going to be able, I didn't feel like I was gonna make it if I didn't go to that place, because that place was so magnetizing, that place of no stimulus other than my own inside out. And I also felt that my Kundalini, and I saw that people were asking about that too. I believe that my Kundalini would take me over, and because it does, it takes me, and it's profound when it does, and I go multidimensional, and there's so much healing there. I've healed myself from flus. I have so many stories, epic stories about how the Kundalini has healed me. Too many times to even count at this point. So I thought, of course the Kundalini is going to take me over, and thank God I'm going to have all this time in the darkness where the Kundalini can have its way with me, and I'll just be like, I'll just blow it all out, and that's how I'll heal. And I was so sure of that. So I was utterly surprised when I was in the darkness, and I like to call it the fertile darkness, because that's truly what it is. That when I was in this darkness, and mind you, in the very beginning, it was like, holy shit, because it was so unrelenting. It's like, you can't even see your hands. There's nothing you can see in the darkness. And it's like, okay, can I do this? Can I do this for what ended up being 3.5 days for me? Can I do this for 3.5 days? In the beginning, it was like, that feels really intense, when you're in it. But I relaxed into it, really relaxed into it, and I believed that the Kundalini was going to come. Wow, I'm heating up just talking about this. I'm going to take this off. And the Kundalini came, but it did this. It came, and it was moving within me, but pretty calm. It wasn't like how I've been taken. It was calm, and it was more like, okay, we're here. My frequencies, my multidimensional selves are here. But they were like, okay, Larisa. they backed on up, and they're like, okay, it's time for you to be with you. And I was like, me? Well, I'm all these things. Why just with Larisa, the 3D Larisa? And it was like, yes. And here I am, which felt like little Larisa, my small self, more of the small, like, it's like the child within is what it felt like the little, like, oh my God, this is so dark. Like, it's so big, it's an eternal, it's infinite, and I'm so small within this. And in the beginning, it felt like I could hardly talk. Like the darkness was so majestic and big, infinite. It was like the mighty infinite. And I felt like, dare I speak? Dare I utter a sound? It was like, and it was in that place that I began to feel this part of myself that needed to be seen and heard. I felt these pieces that when I'm in life, in my worldliness of life, that I'm able to transcend really easily. There's voices that okay, you're here, but let's get into the riding the dragon, the meditation, and we go, and we go past that. The vibration goes up. So these critical voices within myself didn't really have an opportunity to be met at the depth, at the deep. So when you're sitting in that long by yourself, there's a point where it becomes almost like even the critics or the judges almost become allies because there's nobody else in the room. I know that sounds a strange way to express it, but when you're so little in the darkness, in the infinite, in that mighty infinite, that these other parts of yourself that start to speak, you're like, okay, come over here. Okay. And I likened it to going to a party, and you walk into a party and you see all these people that you really love and you want to hang out with at the party. They're like your beloveds, and they make you feel good. Like you just drop into the juiciest, most heart open place, and you snuggle with them and you laugh and you're just like, yes, these are my peeps. Right? And then there's other people at the party that you kind of avoid because they could be more centered in that negativity, right? More of that critical energy. And they talk about how bad the world is and how awful this is and how awful that is. And don't you think it's awful too? And before you know it, you're like, oh, like not so fun, not as much fun to hang out.
Right.
So you kind of go, don't make as much eye contact over in that direction. And in this instance, the people that are the yummies, my multidimensional selves that are just fully in heart and in love, aren't there. And so I've got these other characters, the other inner villagers, as I like to call them, my inner villagers that are there. And they're like, hey. And I'm like, nobody else is here but you. Okay. You know what? You're a sight for sore eyes in that sense.
Right, because at least there's someone.
There's someone to talk to. There's someone to engage with. So I'm like, hey. And they're like, hey. And I'm like, hi. And instead of like this, I said, okay. Instead of trying to do the work as we're taught to do, like Byron Katie, is this true? Instead, what I did is I thought, well, what if it is true? So I'm going to tell you these characters that came into my awareness, which was, I'm not smart enough. I'm not strong enough. Of course, I'm not most beautiful. Of course, that one was there. We all knew that one. I'm not most talented or talented enough. I'm not wise enough. It's just all these characters within myself. And instead of trying to talk myself out of feeling those feelings and navigating those parts of myself, instead I went, what if I embrace you? What if instead of going, is that true that I'm not smart enough? Is that true that I'm not strong enough? Is that true that I'm not most beautiful? Instead, what I did is, what if it's okay? What if it's okay that I'm not smart enough? What if it's okay that I'm not strong enough? What if it's okay that I'm not most beautiful or talented enough or wise enough? And sitting in the seat of that, of the human Larisa, which I think when I work with my clients, all those pieces are so common for us. Like what I'm speaking, I know is not unique to myself. It's a part of this collective
Human experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I think we all struggle with that because being in form, we tend to compare ourselves because we have outside expressions that we go, well, my God, that person's way smarter than I am. Maybe, and we'll also go, I'm smarter than this person. We'll go, we do that.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel smarter over here. Ooh, I feel really, lacking and not intelligent right now over here. Oh my God, they're so much smarter. Yeah. So that comparison thing that we do is something that rather than trying to talk myself out of it, what I found is that there was this incredible healing that started to take place in the darkness when there was nothing else but just my humanity. To spend so much time with the human and to find compassion for and let it be okay that I have these thoughts rather than trying to change them.
Would it be accurate to say that you experienced radical acceptance?
Yes.
Yeah. And radical acceptance, again, there's, because of the world that I'm in, talking with people every weekend about spiritual things or life, radical acceptance is like over and over and over what, again, the Twin Ray, Larisa, and other people that I respect are talking about and saying this is where we need to go next. We have to go into radical acceptance of ourselves, first and foremost, and then radical acceptance of the ex-husband, the ex-wife, the mother, the father, the son, whoever we've experienced harm from. Radical acceptance. And it doesn't mean condoning hurtful behavior. It doesn't mean la-di-da, la-di-da.
Yeah, it's not that
It's
at
not
all.
that.
Yeah.
Radical acceptance is just what you're hearing. She's describing the process of, is it okay that I have all these parts of myself? How can I just be present to the part of me that's aging, or the part of me that isn't everything I'd like to be?
Yep. Yeah.
I want to get to the punchline, and then there's some really wonderful quotes, and I haven't had a chance to, I mean, I've tracked a little bit, but it looks like there's some really beautiful comments coming in. So, okay.
Yeah.
So radical acceptance happens.
Radical. And I started singing to myself, of course, because for me, music the dark retreat also helped me remember this. And as I'm saying that, I'm like, okay, I need to give even more time to the music in my life, because when I was in the darkness, it was the melodies that came through that were such healing balms for myself. I would sit there and I would sing it because, music, it gets into our cells. It really does shift our vibration. So for me, I started singing, it's okay, I'm not the smartest, I'm not the strongest, I'm not most beautiful, it comes and goes like the river that flows through the infinite. I am the infinite. And I just kept singing that to myself again. I'm not the smartest. I'm not the strongest. I'm not most beautiful. It comes and goes like the river that flows through the infinite. I am the infinite. And by singing that again and again and again and again to myself, and I had all the time in the world, what happened to me is this other piece came. And it didn't come from, the peace didn't come from trying to get there fast and trying to go, is this true? And doing it through the mind. It came organically to me. And I know that I see that Manon wants to contribute. And so if you want to contribute, I will hold that thought of what it turned into. I will hold the punchline.
Manon is like, she's got
like,
the heart on. She's like waving her hand. So, all right, Manon, the spotlight's on you. Is there something you wish to share? You have to unmute yourself.
It's so beautiful that your song was healing you.
Yes, thank you.
And I'm guessing that maybe hearing her song had a healing impact on you as well.
Yes, it did.
Thank you, Manon.
Thank you. Yes, it's easy for me to not feel good enough.
I think that I think it's all of us, right?
Yeah.
If we get honest about it, and I think that's the piece, is that we tend to hide that part of ourselves, because if we share that we don't feel smart enough, good enough, strong enough, talented enough, whatever that piece is, then if we share that, then the world will be in agreement with that, right? So we don't want to create agreement with something that we already have challenges with within ourselves. But the truth is that we all come up against that, and we're going to completely transform that in our honesty and in our transparency with ourselves and with others, right?
I will add
Thank you,
that's
Manon.
the wounded part of me that feels that way. The mature woman knows that she's more than enough. But,
Right. Yes.
if I had gone into the dark retreat, I would have felt the wounded part of me.
And I'd like to add to that wound, a lot of times we have embarrassment, shame around what we call a wound. But let us remember is that the wound, Rumi talks about the wound is where the light gets in. So, to honor that humanity, that actually the humility of even questioning these parts of ourselves aren't necessarily negative. It's how we work with these parts of ourselves. It keeps the heart, if you allow it to be so and you're honest with it, it's not a wound that's going to contract you. It's a wound that will allow the light to come in.
I will
So
share
I
with
would love,
you that I also sing when I'm afraid. Yes.
beautiful.
I sing
Yes, it's
silently to myself all the time when I'm afraid. Yes.
thank you.
Man, thank you so much for being with us today and spontaneously sharing. And I think in many ways, in reading the comments coming in, Manon represented what so many people were saying, how your song really touched people. I noticed that several other people commented on
And so
that. And so,
what it transformed into on its own without me trying to do anything. Like I wasn't looking for it. I wasn't searching for it.
you just were present with what showed up.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
kind of like going into a movie theater and you don't really know what's going to happen, but you just surrender to the movie.
That's exactly it. Rather than seeking it and trying to get there faster, which I think is really important. It's a distinction that I've learned from all of this, because as wonderful it is as it is to not feel that pain and move ourselves into what Manon was like, the strong part of ourselves, like the wise part of ourselves. Rather than trying to move ourselves quicker into that, it was sitting with that first, with that it's okay. It was really important to sit in that. And from that, what I heard, and it just came, was, but you're smart enough to know to keep on growing. You're strong enough to face your fears head on. You rise when you fall. You're most beautiful of all when I'm loving you. And I felt that. I'm like, oh my God. It was like, that's right. That's right. That's the juice. That's the gift. That's the treasure that wanted to be revealed, is that I'm smart enough to know to keep on growing. I may not be born with, the IQ of, Einstein or whoever. And yet, because I'm smart enough to know to keep on growing, it's like, it's infinite. It's infinite. I'm constantly connecting new dots. I'm constantly connecting Larisa to source, because when I'm in source, I have access to everything. It's like I am like pure intelligence when I'm in, when I'm connected to my source self. But Larisa, that's getting into this, into this brain and having source self filter through my neural networks of Larisa. It's like that, being able to grow, knowing that I'm always going to grow. That is intelligence, right? Yeah. So it was like, okay, receive that. And the strength to face fears, what is stronger than that, right? To be on your deathbed and to be facing a fear. I'm like, that is profound, right? All of it. And specifically to understand that I'm most beautiful when I'm loving you, when I'm loving
Which is so
you.
true. Which is so true.
Right? So that's the piece.
So, and by the way, we're at 11:30. I have the Fantuzzi concert starting at 12, and I'm supposed to connect with him at 11:45.
Okay.
And we still, so, would you be willing to tell the punchline of what happened when you came out?
Yes. Okay. So it's so funny you say the punchline, and I'm like, that was the punchline for me, Scott. But you're right. You're right. Like, so what happened with my physical healing is that I came out and I had an MRI scheduled for when I got home from the dark retreat. And this is the first MRI I had in 2019. And I surrendered completely. I had no resistance to the MRI. And for all of you who've been in one, it's a very small space. So it can be very claustrophobic. In the past I have, and I've worked with it. This time I was, because of the dark retreat, that was the interesting thing too. The contraction had been so big that the expansion was like, phew, for being able to surrender to what is.
Right.
So in the MRI, I was completely surrendered to whatever was going to show up at this point. And I got my MRI results back. That 8.5 centimeter piece, gone. Gone. So, yeah, there's a lot of cognitive dissonance, I would say, with my doctors right now. And they're still concerned. They're like, but you still have calcifications. And I'm like, I'm not worried. That's going to go away too. Like, that residual is going to disappear as well.
And of course, I want to say, the wisdom in all of that is just living in this world of having that external result is such a beautiful validation of the journey that you went through.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And because we sometimes need that external result to trust the journey and to trust the power of the journey. And I noticed that within myself, as kind of the guide for some of you into options, people, resources, many of us are facing healing challenges. Many of us are facing death. Many of us have friends that are dying and dealing with healing challenges. And we were talking yesterday, and I came to the awareness, I've been reading about first responders. And approximately 96% of the population are not, they don't have the mental movement, the mental focus that a first responder does. What it is that 96% of us, when we see the dragon, when we see the fire, when we see the fear, we run away from it. But a first responder sees the dragon, sees the fire, sees the problem, and goes towards it. And what Larisa did was she responded like a first responder. Instead of running away from it or denying it, she went towards it by choosing to do the dark retreat. She went she went right to the dragon, right to the fire, and faced it.
Yeah.
And all the practice, the faith, the practice are all, those are your shield and your sword.
Yes.
And your horse was the Kundalini experience as you went towards that dragon. But what a beautiful modeling, so that when any of us are facing any challenge, whether it's a health challenge or a financial crisis or whatever it is, how can we draw upon our faith, draw upon our practices of a spiritual nature, of a life-affirming nature? And it may be friends, it may be spiritual friends, it may be Jesus or Buddha or your guru or your teacher or your physical friends or my dog, right? We draw upon our resources and our faith to move forward toward it instead of running away from it.
Yes.
It's an incredibly important story.
Thank you. And thank you for like your distinction of pointing out that piece of the first responders, because I hadn't thought of that, but that is my nature. It's like the things that really scare me the most are the things that I'm like, okay, I will do this, you know, because it's like I don't want to be ruled by fear. I want fear to be an initiation point. I want it to be that point where I actually expand consciousness, where I face something and I know that that contraction is going to create a much bigger expansion in my life and for my community by me facing it. And we didn't even like I know there was comments. Can I respond to one comment?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Because I saw one.
So
in there?
let's do 5 minutes for comments.
Okay.
Then I'll show Larisa's website, and then everybody, the Fantuzzi concert starts at 12. I'm supposed to be at 11:45. I'm going to let him know it's going to be 11:50, so we have a little more time. So yes, respond to comments and questions.
Okay. So I saw one comment or a question actually from Scotty earlier about how to work with the Kundalini or how to activate that Kundalini. And Kundalini is contagious. It is like laughter. It is like crying. Because we all come from love. We are love. We are this life force that is at the base of our spine. And when you come into presence, in the presence, even being in this field today, you may start to feel activated. We are activating each other. I myself have been working with my own Kundalini for such a long time now. I understand how Kundalini navigates and how to work with that energy I would like to say at this point I feel pretty masterful in working with my Kundalini. I know that it's infinite and that there's so much more growth that I have. It's just infinite to work with it, but I do feel a lot of mastery with my Kundalini because I've been working with it, and I have had a Kundalini blowout as well that I learned from. So I can honestly say that in working with people, people become activated in my presence with Kundalini because it is contagious. And I say that very understanding that I am not unique in that there are many others, but I do know that I can really help serve people who are going through Kundalini experiences and navigating them, because the activation of the Kundalini is just the beginning. It's just that tip of the iceberg. It's working with the Kundalini and actually working with the power of that Kundalini for healing. Mm-hmm. And I have been, and I am slow to do this, I'm slow on the uptake with this, but I have been working on putting together a whole course in working with the Kundalini. And I also work with people one-on-one. I rarely talk about this live. I don't think I've ever really shared about that live.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And all the things we've done.
Because I'm a little private about it. I tend to be a little private because, you know, I have a group of people that I'm already working with, and I don't want to like put it out there that I can do one-on-one and then not have time for people. But if you feel like a really strong calling, like you feel right now in this moment like I really could use some help, I've had Kundalini awakening, I would love some support.
How do you want people to reach out to you?
How about this? Reach out to me via my email. Okay.
Larisa Stow at MSN?
Yeah, Larisa Stow at msn.com. Okay. And if you don't hear from me, that means your email ended up in spam and I didn't see it. Mm-hmm. So try again. Don't give up. Okay? So don't give up.
Same. I mean, I'm so behind on my email, and I know there's people that send me beautiful messages that I haven't seen. So, yeah.
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 So don't give up, because it's the squeaky wheel gets the grease in my world. And I will have a course coming out, and we'll be doing work more in that way with people as well.
And I see that Suzanne actually found Skycave Retreats and their website and phone number. Thank you. Wow. I want to encourage everybody that a wonderful way to connect with Larisa is through her Shakti Love Warriors Facebook page. And it's a great community. And we've been doing our best to integrate the Shakti Love Warriors. You know what was funny? While you were talking today, I thought about, we didn't organize the 11:11 thing. And the moment I thought about it, and I looked at the clock, it was 11:11.
I know, me too. And I did that on purpose today.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's a reason. But yeah.
What we're talking about is that every day they do a tuning in, a song, a meditation at 11:11. But people usually join at 11 o'clock, drop in, and then have this kind of beautiful experience. And it's a large community, as you'll see as I kind of scroll down. There's a lot happening. That's where they have like events. They have posts. And you can also go back and look at like some of the previous, like this is her Revolution 11:11 that she did yesterday.
On Thursday.
On Thursday.
But it's every time people comment, it pushes it up higher.
Oh, that's right. Right. I remember that.
Yes.
Right. Okay. And look at how beautiful that is to be able to drop in with Larisa in that way. And sometimes Larisa does the meditation. Sometimes it's Mara. It might be India, our dear friend India, who's been with us holding space this whole time. So anyway, do join if you haven't already joined. And a reminder that we're going to roll right into a 12 noon, this incredible 3-hour concert with my dear friend Fantuzzi co-hosting or hosting, celebrating the Rainbow Gathering. And my understanding is we've about a dozen musical artists are going to join us. Omashar is going to play. Fanny and Vigari might join us. But a lot of people you haven't seen before who are wonderful. So that's going to happen. I will put into the chat box the Zoom room, and final thoughts you want to share with the audience, and then we'll have Omashar do a song.
I'm just really grateful, to be able to share this, and I want to encourage you all to feel into those places within yourself that may have come up today when you hear me talking about it, and to really honor those parts of yourself. I invite you to work with those parts of it's okay. And I feel like it's okay is such a powerful affirmation, even more powerful than like we hear in EFT, emotional freedom tapping. They'll say, even though I, feel blah, 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 I completely love and accept myself. They'll say things like that. For me, this takes it to another level, because even though still presupposes that there's a problem. So it's okay. Takes it for me to another level of that radical self-acceptance. It's okay. It's okay. And to put whatever you're feeling right after that, it's okay. Bring a hand to your heart, bring a hand to your belly, and say, it's okay that I feel ... And to feel into how much you love and accept yourself, but not just that, feel into how it comes and it goes. How it comes and it goes, like a river that flows through the infinite. Because you are the infinite. We are the infinite. We are the many faces of the infinite that are all necessary to grow consciousness. If we were all the best at everything, we wouldn't be growing consciousness. It's through those different colors that we grow.
I'm reminded that Prince Siddhartha, who was dedicated to alleviating all the suffering in the world,
Right.
this incredible vision and desire, and when he, after years of seeing how big the world is and how extreme the suffering is, and he collapses under the Bodhi tree, and he accepts there is suffering. He accepts it. It's okay. Boom. That's when it becomes enlightened. That's when it becomes the Buddha of compassion.
Yeah.
And so that's what I like. It's okay. This is, I am what I am.
And I'm the infinite.
And I'm the infinite.
And I'm the many faces. Do you see that? Like, I am one of the many faces of the infinite experiencing itself and growing itself. And I have to be one of the many faces for consciousness to grow, to continue to grow. So that small self then aligns with that infinite self. It's that bridge. We're bridging the small, which is the part that is, it needs to happen for us to grow with the infinite.
Okay.
I know you gotta go.
I'm so sorry. We're going to go to Omashar. Let's all twinkle. I'm going to go to gallery view for a moment. Turn on your cameras to twinkle Larisa for sharing this beautiful, beautiful, amazing journey, and take in just how you've touched these people's lives, you know.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you so much. It's such an incredible blessing to share with you all and to see your faces and to share with you all, because we're all connected. We are the infinite together.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I put the chat box with the Zoom room for Fantuzzi. So join us. It'll be going from 12 noon till 3 p.m. 3 hours. Omashar,
Larisa, thank you
what's
so
the takeaway?
much. Absolutely amazingly beautiful, deep information that I need to integrate to be able to even play. And so in honor of that and the time, I'm just going to play a little group song that I've put into the chat. And I'll save my big fat fancy rock song for the concert, because I think we need to integrate what we've heard rather than get into our head. I can almost not speak because what I have heard and felt, and there are no words. So thank you, Larisa. Thank you so much from the depth of my heart.
Oh, thank you, Omashar.
Yes.
And as he plays then, it's in the chat box. Namaste, namaste, my heart's singing.
Namaste, namaste, my heart singing, namaste. Love in me beholds the love in you, namaste, namaste. Sing along. Namaste, namaste, my heart singing, namaste. Love in me beholds the love in you. Namaste, 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 my heart singing, namaste. The love in me beholds the love in you. Namaste. Namaste. One more time. I'm still integrating. I'm in London. Namaste. Namaste. My heart singing. Namaste. The love in me beholds the love in you. Namaste. Namaste, namaste. I love you all so much.
Namaste.
Hey.
Now must go.
Thank you,
thank you,
thank you.
Oh, blessings, everybody. So much love to you all. And
Blessings.
I know I'll see many of you in just a little bit for the Fantuzzi Rainbow concert. And Again, thank you, Larisa, so much for sharing your story. And remember, share this story out, share out the Global Peace Tribe events. This weekend, it's been another amazing weekend where each show has been so special and so much love, and each and every one of you make it happen. And it's wonderful getting to know each and every one of you and seeing you. So thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Scott.
My pleasure. My pleasure. All right. I'll see all of you in a few minutes, perhaps. Bye-bye.